Okay, so we should already have, you've already should have practiced ellipses and drawing circles in perspective and all that kind of stuff. So now we're just going to worry about the still life cups, 2 cups to be precise. I'm going to draw them from this perspective right here. And so the first thing I'm actually going to do is think about compositionally. The shadows are going to come out this way, so I kind of want the cups, you know, maybe more to this side, and the shadows will kind of balance out. The shadows are going to be coming to the right and down. So first thing I'm actually going to do, I'm going to start with this cup that's in front right here, and I'm going to start with just an upright line. Just figure out where is the center of that cup going to be placed. Next thing I want to think about is scale. So how big is it going to be? I'd like a fairly large cup on here, so I'm going to measure this and go, okay, how wide is this? I'm going to use this width is going to be my unit of measurement for the whole piece. So if I go to the edge of that, so it's a little more than halfway, it looks like. Make sure I'm getting that right. It's weird to do on a phone. So that's looking like halfway when I look at it here. And if I were to compare it, 2 down. So that means this width is the same as this on the bottom of the lip. Alright, so if I use that same measurement, here I just decide that I want the top of my cup to come somewhere in here. And I'd like it to be about this big, which means that if I measure this, the edge of my cup is going to come somewhere around here. If I flip that the other way, the other side of the cup is going to come somewhere around here. And 1, 2, the bottom of my first cup is going to come right in that area. Now looking at this cup is farther behind, so if I do that on my page, the other cup is going to come probably in this area, a little bit higher, and the shadows are going to come down this way on my page. Hopefully they'll be able to fade out and create kind of an interesting composition. So now I get the basic parameters. The only other thing I can measure out basically is I could compare how wide that is versus the bottom. I'd say like 1.5 of these. So if I measure this, I had 1.5. So 1.5 would be, just guesstimated to be there. I just roughly centered it. That does not seem roughly centered. 1.5. Yeah, that's about right. Move that over there a bit. This right here. Oh, none of those seem right to me. Of course, I'm doing this while looking at a phone instead of my paper, which is really, really weird. Alright, that's 1.5 more centered. Okay. So, and I could even figure out the ellipse of that. What is the width of that? I don't want to look at it. It's very similar, actually. If I just imagine where the ellipse goes, it does look very similar. It's actually a little bit wider than it is. So this is the bottom of the cup. And I know this is a little bit wider than the halfway mark, so I know it's actually wider than that. I could think of my oval somewhere in this range. Which basically means if I gave myself an ellipse here that went to the extremes, to the sides, and I gave myself an ellipse in here, it's going to be much more circular at the bottom, as it should be. And then I were to draw the tapers, I should have a proportional drawing of my cup. I should have basically the basic proportions of this cup worked out at this point. From there I can kind of figure out where's the other edge of that. And it's coming back a little bit. That one's going there. From where I'm sitting, there's just a little bit of daylight between the two. So I know that the width of this as it compared to the width of that, the same. So if I were to take the same setup, put it down there, and I can measure the same distance too. I might want to put a center mark in here. Good, that's about centered. So make sure that's, I don't make it too dark. Roughly. So I can even do the same thing here. You know, this is going to be more circular, actually. But I can start with an idea and go, okay, it's probably a little bit more circular than that. Because it's on the bottom, it's lower. Top is actually going to be flatter than the bottom is. It's about halfway. So that's in this, roughly in this area. Pretty close. So I'm going to have just this roundness. Edge of this cup. And I know that if I connect these slightly in, because there's a lip there, it's more rough. That's more or less roughly my composition. Cups, cups. And I could double check it if I wanted to. What is the height of that? Just a little over a pencil, a little over a pencil. This one's a little further back. I could make it a little shorter. It's alright though. So now I want to make my lines a little more definitive. There's also a lip on the bottom of that cup. It's barely visible. There's a lip right here. Where that's a little bit smaller. This is more round. Most of this is going to get covered by shading, but you know, it's just about having good guides to start with. Wow, it's really awkward holding a cell phone while drawing. Alright, the only other thing I might say is there's a little bit of stuff on this circle. Little nib right there. Alright. Basically, got some cups.